After losing his entire family to a road gang, a young truck driver transforms his vehicle into a monster truck equipped with a giant drill to destroy everyone who ended his life. Today we're going to recap the story of the movie, Rolling Vengeance, from 1987. In the middle of the road, a young truck driver called Joey is about to make a delivery of drinks to a bar. Along the way, he meets his friend, Tyler, who challenges him to a truck race. Joey accepts the challenge and the two of them speed down the road side by side, but a huge tractor appears in front of them. Instead of slowing down, Tyler overtakes between the vehicles, forcing the tractor off the side of the road and almost causing an accident with Joey. Despite this, the truck driver continues on his way and arrives safely at the bar, where his father, Big Joe Russo, is waiting for him. However, Joey accidentally hits the back of the truck and knocks over cases of booze, which infuriates one of the bar staff. Soon after, the owner of the place, Tiny, shows up to control the situation and tells Joey and his father to finish unloading the merchandise. After unloading the goods, they return home, only to be disturbed by Tiny's sons, who show up in a pickup truck in the middle of the road. The unruly brothers start throwing beer bottles at the windshield of the truck, which angers Joey and he fights back, hitting their truck and almost knocking them off the road. After this incident, Joey returns home and his father scolds him for his attitude, as they need this job to support themselves. Joey promises that it won't happen again, so his father takes him to show him the new truck he's bought. He also offers his son a partnership in his new business, where the two will work together as partners and independently. This proposal makes the young truck driver very happy and the two go home to celebrate Kristen's birthday, Joey's younger sister. However, he has to leave soon afterwards to meet his girlfriend, Misty. The couple go for a drive in their new truck and Misty warns Joey that he shouldn't work for Tiny. The reason is that he and his sons often bother people on the road and have even caused accidents with victims, because they always drive drunk. Joey justifies himself by saying that he and his father only work for the money and warns Misty to stay away from Tiny and his sons. After this conversation, the two go on their romantic date, until it's time to leave Misty at home. Nearby, Big Joe puts his daughters to bed and returns to the bedroom, where he talks to his wife, Kathy. He's worried about Joey's future, but she calms him down and gives him a jacket with the logo of his new delivery business, which makes Big Joe very happy. The next day, he leaves for another job with Joey, while his wife and daughters go for a drive. Unfortunately, in the middle of the road, they end up crossing paths with Tiny's sons, led by their older brother Vic. As usual, they are all drunk and start harassing Kathy, even though they know there are two children in her car. The woman tries to overtake them, but the group stops her and starts throwing beer bottles at her windshield. Kathy is forced to stop and Vic not only drives up to her car and smashes the window, he tries to kiss her. Kathy bites the man and speeds off down the road. Unfortunately, the group of rioters speeds up even more and starts ramming into the back of the family car. Eventually, they end up side by side with Kathy's vehicle, which tries to escape, but there's no way out. Worst of all, Tyler appears in front of them, driving his truck in the opposite direction. Kathy turns the car around to flee along the roadside, but it's too late and the truck slams into the vehicle, which flips off the road, ending the lives of the family. Faced with this terrible event, Big Joe and his son say goodbye to their family. At home, Joey receives a visit from Misty, who tries to comfort him, but she soon has to leave, as she realizes that her boyfriend will need time to deal with this loss. However, for Big Joe, this tragedy is even worse. As he walks around the house, the old truck driver fiddles with his daughter's toys, but nothing is enough to deal with his pain. Meanwhile, in Tiny's bar, the man scolds his sons for the crime they committed. He ends up having a fit of rage in front of everyone, but quickly disguises it, as he needs to keep up appearances so that his drinks business isn't ruined. A few days later, his eldest son Vic is brought to court to stand trial for the perishment of Kathy and her daughters. In his testimony, he tries to blame his wife and denies being under the influence of alcohol, which infuriates Big Joe and he accuses him of lying to the judge. However, for interfering with the hearing, the judge tells him to sit down and wait for the decision. Next, it's Tyler's turn to testify and although he's willing to tell the truth, the lawyer pressures him to talk about whether Vic and his brothers sped up the car, thus causing the accident. Tyler is unable to say this for sure, which undermines his testimony. Finally, with all the parties heard, the judge decides that there is no proof of Vic's intention to cause the accident and so he is sentenced only to a fine of $300 and 1 year in jail. Big Joe can't accept such a small punishment for the man who eliminated his family, but the judge only gives him the option of appealing the sentence and nothing more. Unhappy with this injustice, he and Joey leave the courtroom and Tyler tries to explain himself to his friend, but Joey doesn't want to hear what he has to say. Outside, Tiny and his sons mock Big Joe and dismiss his services. This taunt only fuels the old truck driver's anger, and as he continues down the road, he decides to stop off at Tiny's bar. When they get there, Big Joe hides a huge wrench in his boot and orders 2 shots for himself and his son. Shortly afterwards, Tyler passes the same bar with his truck and, on seeing Big Joe's car, he quickly deduces that Joey and his father need help. His suspicions are confirmed when Vic, along with his brothers, again make fun of the situation and pour a glass of beer over Joey. The young man doesn't take it lightly and elbows the man in the nose, while his father punches the other brother in the face. An intense fight breaks out and Tyler arrives just in time to help Big Joe, who is punched and thrown against the table. Tyler then goes after the guy who hit his best friend's father and throws a series of punches at him. Seeing the mess the bar has become, Tiny grabs his gun and threatens to shoot Tyler. However, Big Joe gets up and disarms him with his wrench, while Tyler seizes the chance and grabs the gun, threatening everyone inside. When the fight is over, Big Joe leaves, along with Tyler and Joey, who thank their friend for his help. However, Vic and his brothers swear revenge on the 3 of them for the humiliation they put them through. The next morning, the brothers go to a bridge on the highway, where they wait for Big Joe and Joey's trucks to pass by. When they do, the 5 troublemakers throw chunks of concrete in front of Big Joe's truck, which loses control and flips off the road. Joey runs desperately to help his father, who has been seriously injured. He takes him to the hospital and there, while Big Joe is under observation by the doctors, Joey suspects that Tiny and his sons have done this to his father and vows to take revenge. The young man returns home and starts modifying his truck. He works day and night on this project, collecting various parts from the junkyard to make it more powerful. After days of hard work and dedication, Joey finishes his newest vehicle, a full-powered monster truck. With everything ready, it's time for a test drive and Joey decides to use Tiny's bar as a practice track. When he gets there, he promptly drives his truck over all the used cars that Tiny was planning to sell, leaving them in pieces. Because of the noise in the bar, Tiny and his sons have no idea what's going on outside and continue to have fun inside. Finally, Joey runs over Tiny's private car, leaving it completely crushed. After giving the guy everything he deserved, Joey returns home with his monster truck and before entering the house, he receives a visit from Misty. She asks why Joey has been missing these days and tells him that she has to leave to study in another city. Joey doesn't want to prevent her from having a better future, but he can't let her go and apologizes for his absence. The two reconcile with a kiss and before saying goodbye, they enjoy a romantic moment during the night. The next day, the police are at Tiny's bar, investigating who might have smashed up his cars. The town sheriff, named Sullivan, interrogates the bar owner about who might have done it. He also says that he suspects it may have something to do with the supposed accident that Big Joe had on the road. Tiny just shrugs it off and returns to the bar, where his sons are waiting for him to find out what should be done. The old man believes that it was Tyler who did it, because as well as being friends with Big Joe and Joey, he pointed the gun at him during the bar fight. So he calls Vic in for a private chat and tells him to resolve the matter, using whatever means necessary. Vic accepts this mission with pleasure and, when night comes, he orders his brothers, Brian and David, to look for Tyler on the road. Without much difficulty, they find him and, while David drives the van, Brian pulls out a shotgun and fires shots at the truck. Tyler gets scared and tries to push the van off the road, but the brothers swerve and follow in pursuit. At a crossroads, the 2 of them force Tyler's truck onto another road and continue on his tail. The truck driver then uses his communicator to call for help and his call is picked up by Joey's radio, who immediately sets off in his monster truck to save him. In the meantime, Tyler tries to resist as best he can, pushing the van onto the shoulder, but the brothers are more agile and manage to swerve. If the situation wasn't critical enough, they managed to hit the front wheel of the truck, forcing Tyler to stop in the middle of the road. With nowhere to run, the young truck driver hides in the cab, while Brian and David fire shots at the truck. They have fun with the situation, until suddenly, a strong light is emitted from the road. It comes from Joey's monster truck which, without a second thought, runs over Brian with its giant wheels, eliminating him for good. David runs to the van and tries to escape down the road, but Joey has no intention of letting him get away. David accelerates the van as fast as he can, but the monster truck soon catches up with him and Joey activates a mechanism that releases a huge drill bit from the truck. With it, the young man drills into the back of the van and pulls the car door off. This attack causes the van to spin out of control and David tries to go the other way, but Joey runs over him with his truck, crushing him along with the van. Another day passes and the police try to investigate who was responsible for the elimination of the 2 brothers, but there are no suspects. One of the policemen even questioned Tyler, but he just claimed that a monster truck came out of nowhere and saved him, as if it were a ghost. Meanwhile, at Tiny's bar, he and his sons go to dinner, but the old man is enraged to see that they don't even respect the perishment of their brothers. In a rage, he starts throwing food at all of them and says that if they don't avenge the elimination of their brothers, he'll eliminate them himself. His children agree and Tiny says that the driver of the monster truck must be Joey, out for revenge for what they did to his family. So Vic once again promises to resolve the situation and sends his 2 other brothers to Joey's house. Unfortunately, Misty is also on her way there, having tried to get in touch with her boyfriend by phone, but to no avail. Minutes later, she goes to Joey's garage and doesn't find him, but Vic's brothers are already there, waiting for the truck driver. The young woman tries to get away from the criminals, but they capture her and attack her in the middle of the field, with no one around to help her. Shortly afterwards, Joey drives home and hears Misty crying in the distance. He sets off after her and finds her badly injured. This becomes the last straw for Joey, who is determined to eliminate Tiny and his sons in the worst possible way. Meanwhile, the brothers who carried out this terrible attack on the girl are in their car in the middle of the countryside, celebrating the night they had. Little do they know that a gigantic monster truck is approaching, ready to destroy them. When they see the huge truck coming, the 2 run off at high speed down the road and hide in a cornfield. After that, they look for the monster truck, but there's no sign of it. However, it doesn't take long for Joey to show up with his powerful truck and leave the brothers' car in pieces. The 2 still manage to escape and go their separate ways, but Joey intends to hunt them down mercilessly. One of them tries to run through the cornfield, but ends up slipping on the ground. Joey takes this chance and runs over the guy with the giant wheels of his truck. Still missing is the second brother, who flees towards an abandoned factory. He manages to get under the huge iron gate, but that's not enough to stop a monster truck, which easily drives into the factory. Desperate, he runs through the various boxes and barrels, but again, nothing can withstand the truck's power. His only hope is to try to hide in the factory office, but when he tries to get out on the other side, he panics when he sees that the door is locked. With no escape, all he can do is await his fate, and Joey then brings the office down on top of him with his monster truck, thus avenging his girlfriend. Hours later, the media question the sheriff about the victims, but he says he still doesn't know who did it. However, his colleague says that the sheriff must have a suspect in mind, but he just shrugs it off and leaves. Later, Misty is still trying to recover from what was done to her the night before, while listening to the radio in her room. She hears about the incident against the men who attacked her and soon suspects that Joey was responsible for it. She tries to call him, but he's in hospital, waiting for the doctor's diagnosis on his father. There, the young man is visited by Sheriff Sullivan, who asks him some questions about what happened to Tiny's sons. The sheriff knows that Joey was responsible and warns him that if the man continues to hunt, he will be forced to arrest him, even though he knows his motives are just. Before the conversation can continue, Misty shows up shortly afterwards to talk to Joey. The sheriff decides to leave the 2 of them alone, but first, he hands over his card and asks them to get in touch if they need any help. Afterwards, Misty confronts Joey about his attitudes as a vigilante and that they need to get away, otherwise he'll be arrested. The young truck driver thinks about it, but seconds later receives a call from the doctor. Unfortunately, he brings bad news, as his father, Big Joe, couldn't resist his injuries. The young man, having lost his entire family to Tiny and his sons, now just wants to find those responsible and finish what he started. Misty tries to stop him, but Joey, wearing his father's jacket, sets off to complete his revenge once and for all. Worried about her boyfriend, Misty takes the sheriff's card to ask for his help. Meanwhile, in Tiny's bar, he and Vic are hiding, fearing that the monster truck will show up. The young man fears for his life, and to make matters worse, his father tells him that Vic has let him down and calls him useless for letting his brothers be eliminated. Unhappy with this, Vic points his gun at his father and tells him to apologize for what he said. Even at the risk of being eliminated, Tiny is undeterred and challenges his son to shoot. As he expected, at the last moment Vic gives up and fires a shot upwards. Just then, the monster truck invades the bar and drives through it, destroying everything in its path. Vic and Tiny are unharmed, but seconds later, Joey returns with his truck and continues to destroy the entire establishment. Finally, he leaves the entire bar in pieces, just as Sheriff Sullivan appears in his car, alongside Misty. After completing his revenge, Joey gets out of the truck and finds his girlfriend, who runs into his arms, relieved that he's okay. However, behind them comes Tiny, who aims his shotgun at the young couple, but Sullivan pulls out his pistol and the 2 exchange fire. Tiny's shot hits the sheriff in the shoulder, but his shot hits the bar owner in the head and he is instantly eliminated. Afterwards, Joey and Misty run to help the sheriff, but Vic takes advantage of their distraction, gets into the monster truck and drives off. The couple try to run to the car, but before they can get in, Vic runs over the vehicle. Misty quickly hides in a nearby tunnel, while Joey lures Vic away from her, only to stumble to the ground. Vic soon drives the truck towards him, but Joey swerves and passes through the truck's wheels unharmed. The villain decides to change targets, heading for the tunnel and activating the drill mechanism to eliminate his rival's girlfriend. It gets closer and closer and Misty has nowhere to run. Fortunately, Joey manages to climb into the truck and plugs the exhaust pipe, which causes the smoke to spread inside the cab. As a result, Vic is forced out of the truck and Joey sets out to stop the man. However, the villain pulls him by the leg towards the field and the two start exchanging punches and kicks, while the drill gets closer and closer to Misty. The young woman screams for help and Joey tries to help her, but Vic doesn't want to let him get away and pushes him towards the wheel of the truck. Even so, Joey manages to break free from him and throws him in front of the monster truck's tire, which runs over Vic and eliminates him forever. But there's no time to lose and the drill is almost upon Misty. At the last minute, Joey manages to climb into the cabin and disables the drill mechanism, thus saving his beloved. The fight is finally over and the police arrive on the scene to help the injured. Sheriff Sullivan is taken to the ambulance and his colleague tells him that, on investigating the monster truck, the evidence indicates that Vic was the driver who wiped out his brothers on the road. Thanks to Vic's decision to get into the truck, he ended up being framed for everything and, even though he knows it's not true, the sheriff decides to keep this story going in order to protect Joey. With everything settled, the young truck driver, together with his girlfriend, heads off down the road, certain that his family has finally been avenged. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.